In the summer of 2021, a wealthy and well-connected South Carolina lawyer named Alec Murdaugh shocked the nation when he killed his wife and youngest son. The case quickly became one of the most infamous true crime stories in modern history. But it's Paul Murdaugh, not Alec, who stands at the true center of this tragedy. Born on April 14, 1999, Paul Murdaugh was the younger of Alec and Maggie Murdaugh's two sons. Alec himself was a prominent and powerful attorney, part of a legal dynasty that had ruled over South Carolina's 14th District Court since 1920. The Murdaugh family wasn't just influential, they were the law in that area, and at times, even above it. Growing up surrounded by wealth, privilege, and protection, Paul and his brother learned early on that their family name carried untouchable power. Paul was well aware of the dark history surrounding his family, particularly the suspicious deaths of his brother's friend, Stephen Smith, and their longtime housekeeper, Gloria Satterfield. Years later, Alec Murdaugh would admit to lying about the manner of Satterfield's death to collect a $4.3 million insurance claim. Just one of the many crimes that would eventually land him behind bars for life. Growing up with money and freedom, Paul Murdaugh began drinking heavily at an early age. Reports suggest that his parents were aware of his underage drinking, but continued to fund his habits. Paul often used his older brother's ID to buy alcohol, and when intoxicated, his behavior would drastically change. His friends nicknamed his drunken alter ego Timmy. His ex-girlfriend, Morgan Dowdy, described numerous instances where Paul's drinking spiraled out of control, particularly after the death of their mutual friend, Mallory Beach. According to Morgan, Paul drank almost daily, often to the point of being completely incapacitated. The warning signs, however, had appeared long before tragedy struck. On New Year's Eve 2018, Paul crashed his father's car while drunk. On another occasion, during a senior trip to the Bahamas, he became so intoxicated that he vomited inside a gift shop. These reckless habits would soon culminate in a horrifying incident that changed many lives forever. In February 2019, 19-year-old Paul Murdaugh invited a group of friends to join him on his family's boat for a night of partying. The group included his girlfriend, Morgan Dowdy, and their friend, Mallory Beach. Earlier that day, Paul had used his brother's ID and his mother's credit card to buy alcohol from a liquor store. After drinking on the boat and attending a party, Paul drove his friends to a local bar where he took 2 shots before returning to the boat. By then, he was fully in Timmy mode. Around 1 a.m., Paul began speeding, steering erratically, and arguing with Morgan while refusing to let anyone else take control. Despite the group's pleas, he continued driving recklessly until the boat slammed into Archer Creek Bridge. The crash threw Mallory Beach overboard. Her body wasn't found until 8 days later. When police arrived, Paul's blood alcohol content was 3 times the legal limit, even after several hours had passed since the crash. He was charged with 1 count of causing death by boating under the influence and 2 counts of causing great bodily injury. The day he was charged, April 18, 2019, would have been Mallory's 20th birthday. On May 6th, Paul pleaded not guilty and was released on a $50,000 bond. Mallory's family later filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Alec, Maggie, and Buster Murdaugh, as well as the liquor store that had sold Paul the alcohol. Despite the gravity of the case, Paul received unusually lenient treatment. It took officials 7 weeks to formally charge him, and even then, he appeared in court without handcuffs. Witnesses said Paul was clearly intoxicated the night of the crash, yet police neither questioned nor detained him at the scene. His family's power and connections had once again insulated him from the full weight of the law. Paul was still awaiting trial when he was shot dead by his father in June 2021. After the 2019 accident, authorities had learned that Alec and Maggie Murdaugh were fully aware of their son's alcohol abuse and had even enabled it. Morgan recalled multiple instances where Paul drank heavily in front of his parents, who not only tolerated it, but financed his binges. Paul often called his grandfather, Randolph Murdaugh III, whenever he got into trouble. Randolph was a respected state attorney and a major influence in Paul's life. The protection Paul enjoyed gave him a sense of invincibility. However, Randolph died peacefully in June 2021, just 3 days after the murders of Paul and Maggie. On June 7, 2021, Alec Murdaugh called 911 around 10 p.m., reporting that he had found his wife and son dead on the family's hunting estate. Paul, 22, had been shot twice with a shotgun, while Maggie had been shot 5 times with a rifle. The gruesome crime scene suggested both were killed at close range, likely without warning, as neither had defensive wounds. Forensic expert Kenneth Kinsey later explained that Paul's injuries would have caused significant back spatter, meaning the shooter would likely have been contaminated. Prosecutors argued that Alec was that shooter. At the time, Alec's life was unraveling. His financial crimes were about to be exposed, and his long-term addiction to opioids was coming to light. Just weeks before the murders, Paul had left a voicemail for his father, expressing concern about his drug use. He said, "Mom found several bags of pills in your computer bag." Maggie had also discovered evidence of Alec's addiction, and he responded by texting her, "I'm very sorry that I do this to all of you. I love you." This message later became crucial evidence in his murder trial. Prosecutors argued that Alec killed his wife and son to distract from his mounting legal troubles and to gain sympathy as financial investigations into his law firm intensified. For Mallory Beach's mother, Renee, the news of Paul's death was devastating. She told People magazine, "I just broke down and started crying. I wanted him to own up to what he had done, and I never wanted anything like this to happen to him or Maggie. I was hoping he'd admit he was wrong and change his life." But instead of closure, the tragedy deepened as Alec's crimes continued to surface. In the years following, investigators uncovered Alec's massive web of fraud, theft, and corruption. He was charged with money laundering, tax evasion, embezzlement, bank fraud, and, most significantly, the murders of his wife and son. Unknowingly, Paul had left behind the very evidence that would seal his father's fate. Shortly before his death, he recorded a Snapchat video at the family kennels, in which Alec's voice could be heard in the background. During questioning, Alec insisted he hadn't been near the kennels that night, but forensic data and the video proved otherwise. Prosecutors played the footage in court, and it became the decisive moment of the trial. One juror told CNN that the kennel video was what convinced him Alec was guilty. As South Carolina Attorney General Alan Wilson stated, "The jury saw how he was trying to manipulate them and heard the kennel video. They made the right decision." During the trial, Alec claimed he lied about his whereabouts due to confusion caused by opioid withdrawal. But the evidence was overwhelming. Cell phone records, car data, and, most damningly, his own voice placed him at the murder scene.